Hello, everybody. Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us for today's important conversation that we're going to have talking about digital abuse and stalkware. Today we have Aubrey. Aubrey is a recent cybersecurity graduate from DeSales University. She has spent the last 3 years researching stalkware and how it fits into domestic abuse threat modeling. Currently, she is focused on educating individuals on how to identify and mitigate stalkware to keep themselves safe. So such an important conversation, especially working within domestic and intimate partner abuse. My name is Melissa Robinson. I am the Training and Education Director here at Turning Point. This is recorded, but we do have a questions and answers available. All you have to do is click on that Q&A at the bottom of your screen, type in your questions. We are going to wait until the end of today's presentation to address any of the questions that may come up for you. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Aubrey to start today's important conversation.
Okay, hey, good afternoon, everybody. I'm here to talk about digital abuse and stalkerware and how they fit in together. And we'll take a quick look at the agenda before I start. So we're going to go over like a few bulletins. Like we're going to talk about what stalkerware is, how it fits into digital abuse, why it's important to understand it, important signs that you may be affected by it, the top 4 stalkerware threats, how to remove stalkerware from your device, and tips to keep yourself safe and secure. So what is stalkerware? Stalkerware is a commercial piece of software that's designed to gain access, to spy on, or gain power and control over a specific person without their consent on their smartphone or other devices. Stalkerware is also known as spyware, spouseware, malware, or riskware. It's unique because it can only be installed on a device if the perpetrator has some form of direct access, such as having physical access to the device and directly installing the software, purchasing a device with stalkerware already installed on it, exploiting iOS and Android systems by jailbreaking or downloading APK files onto the device, tricking the targeted user into downloading and installing the stalkerware program through emailed and text links, and remotely installing the software through the user's iCloud or Google Drive. So here's some interesting facts about stalkerware. It runs hidden in the background of a user's device. The perpetrator can turn off notifications and shut down, uninstall, or disguise the application from their device or location. Most perpetrators do not need to be technologically savvy to gain access to the software or the targeted device, and most of these stalkerware applications are user-friendly and easy to set up. So since stalkerware is a commercial product, it means that developers are legally permitted to create, distribute, and deploy stalkerware if it is only downloaded on devices that the purchaser are permitted to access and alter. So that's important because it means that most developers and companies do not have to take responsibility for their software and how it's used. This responsibility solely falls on the person purchasing and using the software and if they're going to use it correctly or illegally. When you read through a bunch of these companies and their user agreements, it specifically says like they're not at fault and it would come onto the person that is using it. So if you have any kind of issue with it, they won't even like acknowledge that there's an issue going on. So how does stalkerware fit into digital abuse? There's a report from Kaspersky, their State of Stalkerware. They do one every year. This is the most recent one that's been out, the one from 2023. So here's some findings from that. In 2023, there were 31,031 people affected by stalkerware globally that they know of. And there were over 195 different stalkerware applications. TrackView was the most popular, and it negatively affected 4,049 users. So out of the 21,000 people that they interviewed for their State of Stalkerware report, 46% had no knowledge of what stalkerware was. 7% state that they had stalkerware installed on their device without their knowledge. 12% admitted to setting parameters or installing software on their partner's smartphone, while another 9% pressured their partner to install tracking software on their device. And 4% of users have allowed their partner to install stalkerware because of constant harassment. And it's really important to drive home that that's not the same as consent. Like those people didn't really consent to have that on their device. It was just kind of like to alleviate the constant harassment, the constant like almost nagging to kind of put it on the phone. It was like, I give up, just put it on there. But that's not them consenting to that. And based on this report, the most common functions used by stalkerware applications include reading SMS, MMS, and call logs, accessing contact lists, tracking GPS location, accessing calendar events, reading messages from popular messaging applications and social media platforms, having access to your camera roll, image galleries, and video access, taking screenshots of the targeted device, taking front camera photos and videos, and recording audio. Findings from a vast blog also in 2023 across the globe, stalkerware use has increased by 239% over a 3-year period. Researchers for Avast have found that child surveillance applications are also being used to track current or ex-partners because they can monitor calls, SMS, internet activity, social media accounts, record audio and video, take photos or screenshots of a person's phone, and real-time GPS locations. So this is where it gets a little tricky. So applications like Life 360 or Find My Phone, they can be used by perpetrators to track a person's location. Now, if location tracking apps are consented by both parties, it's totally fine because everyone's aware that it's happening. The issue is when it's not consented by everyone involved. That's when stalkerware and its uses and its GPS tracking become a bigger issue, is like if the one person is completely unaware that it's happening to them. So this also brings up this next bullet point that actions such as checking a partner's phone, reading their emails, checking their location, and knowing their passwords is now commonplace. And this is an issue because some individuals don't even know that they're participating in abusive behaviors or experiencing abuse because of how common those interactions are with relationships. And these are the findings from Somebody's Watching Me, how smartphones and stalkerware impact technology-facilitated intimate personal violence. This was the one that I actually did for my graduate project. That was from this year. And here's some findings that I found. I figured it was important to add it since those were from 2023 and we're in 2025. So this is the most recent minus those reports because they're not out yet. So from my findings, the top 5 stalkerware applications for 2024 to through 2025 currently are mSpy, Cerberus, FlexiSpy, Spyinger, and TrackView. Information about stalkerware is not really prevalent in the United States. International resources from the United Kingdom, Russia, and Canada were extremely helpful in my research. So if anybody's curious about where to look for things about stalkerware after this presentation's over, I would definitely look into more international resources. Specifically, Canada has some great resources. Kaspersky's based in Russia, so that's where they get that report from. And the UK, they actually have legislation for digital abuse and things like that. So it actually gives us like a picture of like what that could look like if we were to implement those laws and policies in the United States. Stalkerware and smartphone implementation is a form of TFIPV when it's compared to the Duluth Wheel of Power and Control. Stalkerware actually introduces the abuse classification of surveillance to the wheel. Most perpetrators are authenticated and authorized to access the device in these cases because they can either set up or purchase the device, force the victim to give them their credentials, or they can successfully guess the passwords and PINs because of their closeness to the victim. The 4 common threat vectors associated with stalkerware include keylogging, GPS location tracking and geofencing, unauthorized account access, and remote camera, video, and screen recording. And the threat and safeguard matrix, or the TASM, that shows where protections are and methods of detection and responses. But what the TASM showed is that we do have protections, we have methods of detection, we have responses to stalkerware and potential recovery. The only issue that we have with that is that education and awareness are lacking, which is why like I've made it my kind of personal thing to make sure that I get enough awareness and education out there for people so that they can help themselves and we can help others. So here's a quick chart of the top 5 Stalkerware apps that I mentioned from 2024 until like our current year. You can see the downloads for these are kind of all over the place and they're hard to pinpoint because some of them are Apple and Android, some of them are only on Android, some of them are only for subscribed members on their website. And like they're all over the place and a lot of them say like since rebranding. I'll get into that in a couple slides later about why rebranding is an issue, but you can see like a lot of these only started like, well, Spyinger started January 11th, 2025. That's when it was it's Apple only and it's only in the Apple Store. So it makes it really confusing to pick through these, especially because in 2023 there were 195 different apps. So it makes it really hard to stay on top of when these apps are coming out and to like constantly monitor them. It's a pretty daunting task. So when we move over to the next column for primary feature, that shows like these 5 apps, most of them give the perpetrator complete access to the device. So Cerberus, Flexus Spy, and Spyinger, as soon as you have the stalkerware installed on the device, you can have it and you can control that person's device from any remote location. Like if that perpetrator had a cell phone, they can use it on their cell phone. If they're using it from a desktop, they can use it on a desktop. And then some of these also like TrackView, they can turn any device into an IP camera, and MSpy focuses on GPS tracking and geofencing capabilities. When we move into the final column, it looks at primary assets compromised. So you can see like it runs a whole bunch of things. So basically, if the perpetrator has specific assets that they're looking to like compromise or like a primary goal for why they're using stalkerware, like let's say I want account access for my ex's social media. You would look into that app that has that capability. So you could choose like MSpy for that because it has social media accounts as one of the primary assets compromised. You could also use FlexiSpy for that. But each one specializes in what it does. So there's a stalkerware application out there for each thing that someone's looking to exploit. So here's how Stalkerware introduces surveillance as a threat. For my project, I had to take the power and control wheel and I had to like kind of change it a little bit and made it this specific version just for Stalkerware. So this is what that wheel would look like if it was implemented in like real life scenarios. So we can definitely see that surveillance is on there, and surveillance is important to the perpetrator because stalkerware allows them to remotely monitor, track, maintain communication, and control through their smartphone or other personal device at their discretion. And constant surveillance may cause significant mental health issues for victims. It could cause them to live in fear, isolate themselves, have increased feelings of paranoia, shame, and anxiousness, and make them scared to use their smartphone. Surveillance can also affect outside parties, so children, family members, and friends of the victim can be affected since the perpetrator has access to the victim's current surroundings, the ability to read their conversations, and access to social media accounts. So why is it important that we understand stalkerware? It's because stalkerware assists perpetrators in maintaining power and control in digital abuse incidents, which we just talked about a little bit on the previous slide. Here are some more technical means that are available when a perpetrator uses stalkerware. So it maintains the power and control because it keeps the application hidden from the victim. They can remotely remove the application from the victim's device. They can factory reset the victim's phone. Stalkerware gives the capabilities of emailing and printing out chat and location logs. You can lock the victim out of their smartphone or accounts, buying devices for children that have stalkerware installed on them, using non-consensual images as blackmail or for bargaining, and having the capacity to contact the victim at any time through screen note capabilities. The next point is that most victims do not realize they're being stalked or monitored. So incidents that involve stalkerware and digital abuse are frustrating for professionals and victims because in many cases the victims do not know when the software was installed on their smartphone. This is complicated further because stalkerware is meant to run covertly in the background of the device, so it takes a long time for a person to realize that they are being stalked or monitored. It usually takes an extreme event for the victim to see a pattern in their daily lives before they believe that their smartphone is being used as a tool for surveillance. The third point is that Stalkerware gets rebranded every few years, so it's difficult to keep track of the companies and software. So that, like I said in the other slide, when it had the downloads different because of rebranding, most of rebranding occurs to being involved in data leaks and breaches, having controversy due to the invasive nature of the software application, wanting to appeal to a specific market. It hops and changes every time there's something to appeal with as far as security goes, because most of these apps are branded as security applications. So you would have, it started off as like cheating spouse apps where it's like catch your spouse cheating, so here's an app for that. And then it moved to child safety, and then it moved to personal security. And you can see on the image on this slide, Cerberus, they have been, they change their app all the time. So you can see that they have a lock screen protector for personal safety. They have a personal safety app. Cerberus Enterprise is if you are a manager in a corporation and you have cell phones that you give to people. You can track all of those interactions that are happening on those phones. And then you have Cerberus Child Safety, and that's their child app. And the the reason that Cerberus does this is the last point on this slide. It's motivation to get back into the Apple Store or Google Play Store, because Google Play removed them because they got a lot of reports that the app was incredibly invasive and it violated the terms and conditions of the Google Play Store. So they removed it. Unfortunately, when I started doing my research on this, Cerberus is actually back in the Google Play Store. So they rebranded themselves again so they could gain access for more people to like use their app. So, um, I've kind of been watching that. It's still part of the Google Play Store. It hasn't been removed yet. And that's probably a trend that's going to keep occurring. The next point is that constant monitoring, harassment, and check-ins may cause numerous mental and physical health issues. So there was a report by Mazza et al. In 2022 that shows that digital abuse incidents do not have the same physical abuse as domestic violence incidents since it's performed through technological means. So in the report, it stated that professionals do not see lacerations, contusions, or fractures, but instead, physical issues can manifest themselves as gastrointestinal issues, chronic pain, STIs, brain injuries, and cardiovascular diseases. So, these constant check ins, monitoring, and harassment from a remote location can lead to numerous mental health issues, also, such as depression, anxiety, PTSD, eating disorders, suicidal behaviors and substance abuse, sexual issues, concentration issues, somatization, educational, occupational, or social issues, and feelings of guilt and blame. So here's some important signs that you may be affected by stalkerware. These are some signs that an ex or current partner may be using it. So if they ask you for your username or password to your social media personal accounts, your credit card information or your email, if they want you to share their location with them, if they constantly ask you who you're with and where you're going with proof that you're with that person, that may make them more likely to use stalkerware. Another important sign that they may be using it is if they actually stop asking all those important questions above, because Stalkerware, since it allows a person to secretly monitor another person, they don't have to ask for consent to view those personal accounts or location questions anymore. They can just pop on the app and take a look. So for it would kind of be a red flag if someone was asking all those things and all of a sudden they stop. Like it would be like, why aren't you asking me those questions anymore? And that's just something that I found in the research that kind of has like the victim question, like what's actually happening? Like, is there something else going on, or did they just give up? It kind of depends. It's kind of like a trust your gut scenario with this. So, common signs that stalkerware may be installed on a device. On the right hand of the slide, you will find a list of the 8 most common signs that stalkerware is installed on your smartphone or device. And it's important to note that if the device has more than one of these signs, it increases the likelihood that stalkerware is on the device. So, we're looking at your phone overheating, increased data usage, faint static noise. Like when you hold the phone up to your ear, it's not going to be very loud, but you can hear this like crackling static almost on the other end when the stalkerware is running in the background. There's also the inability to shut down the device. We have rapid battery drain. If the smartphone shuts down or restarts randomly, if you're receiving odd looking text messages or messenger messages that are just like a bunch of characters or like broken links, that's a sign. And if applications and features are active without you actually like pressing on them or using those capabilities. So we're going to talk about the top four stalkerware threats, which I mentioned like a little bit ago on another slide, but we're going to go over them now more in depth. So we're going to start off with keylogging. So a keylogger is a program that records every letter, number, symbol, username, password, website, email, and credit card number that you type when you use your smartphone. The most important assets that perpetrators look for include social security numbers, 401k information, credit card and banking information, social media accounts, messenger and email credentials, and employment portal logins. Keyloggers are concerning because they store your private information, allow perpetrators to read both sides of any conversation on any platform. They hide in the background of your device, record the time you spend on specific applications or websites. They take screenshots when you type specific words and log your search and browser history. You may have a keylogger installed on your device if you're experiencing applications freezing and shutting down, if the device is running slower than normal, if your settings have changed without you changing them, if you're redirected to search engines or other websites, or if you lose access to your personal accounts. Next, we have GPS location tracking and geofencing. GPS location tracking is the use of satellites and receivers to track the geographic location of a person, vehicle, or other asset anywhere in the world at any time of the day. Geofencing uses GPS technology to create virtual geographic boundaries, which allows software to trigger an alert or response when a smartphone enters or exits a specific area. A perpetrator can set up alarms and notifications when you enter or exit these specific areas, go to certain locations, and create maps of your daily routine. And then these maps can then increase the likelihood of being stalked and monitored. Because what they can do with these, if they plot out like your entire daily routine, they can in turn like follow you, and it can increase like the severity of like stalking incidents, which is pretty frightening that, GPS location tracking can be used for something like that. And this is definitely one of the primary reasons like people install stalkerware on someone else's device. The third is unauthorized video and audio access, or I call it UVA because it's easier to say. The intent behind remote monitoring is to monitor a specific user's immediate surroundings through video and audio. It's a way to keep tabs on who the victim interacts with and what they do on a daily basis. So, in most circumstances, the location, microphone, camera icon, or green light will show up when the victim is not using it. However, some stalkerware can perform these functions without the icon showing activity, which, if that kind of makes it hard to determine because like some applications can do things that other apps can't. So in most circumstances, if the perpetrator is using UVA, you will see that green light show up. You'll see those icons show up, but some more advanced, it's more like premium features. They can perform these functions without the icon showing up. So it kind of depends. So I mean, if they're showing up without you pressing on it, that's definitely like a red flag and something that you should take note of. But it also proves that it can also run undetected too. It's hard to like pinpoint these things. So UVA is harmful because it violates the personal privacy of children, intimate partners, family, friends, and yourself. And your device will be overworked, so it may not function like it normally does. You might experience delays with opening applications or using certain features on your smartphone. And the last is unauthorized account access. There are three main targets when it comes to unauthorized access: you, your loved ones, and the smartphone that you or your loved ones use. The target depends on the personal motivations of the perpetrator. So the four most common assets that perpetrators look for with unauthorized account access may include usernames and passwords to social media and personal accounts, full access to private conversations between family, children, and loved ones, using your social media and personal accounts against you, and access to your financial information. You can detect unauthorized account access in two different ways: through device detection, and this is through abnormal login times, unauthorized purchases, changed login credentials, and deleted or deactivated accounts. And then there's human detection, and this could be if your loved ones are receiving vulgar and offensive messages from social media or messenger accounts, if your employment schedules are changed or you've been terminated, based on something that was said. There's been instances where people have logged into people's employment portals and put 2 weeks notice in, and then, they don't have their job any longer. And that wasn't because of them choosing that. It was because their perpetrator did that on their schedule. So the next point is that the victims communicated with are deleted, blocked, or removed. There are posts on the victim's social media profiles that they did not create or post, and if there are written messages from the perpetrator in the victim's personal accounts. And stalkerware companies are highly susceptible to data breaches, so your personal information can also be leaked if there is a high incidence of keylogging mixed with unauthorized account access. So you can remove stalkerware from your device, which is a very good thing. I know all of that. It's kind of like, what do we do? Because it's something that's so invasive and so threatening. Like, what can we do? And pretty much it's this slide. Follow these important steps. You first want to find out if your device has compromised admin privileges on Android or if it was jailbroken on Apple. So to do that through your Android devices, you would go into settings, then security and privacy, more security settings, and device admin apps. And it'll have a list of all the apps that have admin privileges. So if there's like apps that you don't remember giving those privileges to, or you've never had like your admin, you've never used your admin, but there's apps in there, you can click on them and remove them. Um, and kind of like erase it from that part of the phone. And then for Apple, you would want to search for jailbreaking apps such as Z Jailbreak. There's a whole bunch of jailbreaking apps that are out there for Apple. A Google search will bring up a whole bunch, but you would want to search for any of the more common ones on the phone. And if that's on there and you don't remember using it or installing it, then that's definitely like a marker for like concern. The next step, if once you find out if it has been compromised, you want to run an antivirus or anti-malware program to identify any malicious links, files, or applications. You would want to delete those files and uninstall the apps from your phone. After you do that, you want to back up all your important information and move any important media into a secure folder. And after that, you would want to perform a factory reset to your smartphone or device. Unfortunately, at this time, the only way to fully remove stalkerware from a device is to perform a full factory reset. So that's why you would create that backup of all your important information and media. And because you have to fully wipe your phone. Everything that you have on there would need to be erased, because it restarts the phone completely at a fresh slate, and you don't have to worry about it. And that's the reason why you delete the files and uninstall the applications before you create the backup, because there's been some instances where people have backed up all their important information and actually backed up the stalkerware files. And if the person can get into the phone again and those files are still there, then the installation process starts all over and it's an unsuccessful removal. So here are some tips to keep yourself safe and secure. We want to maintain good password health. So a strong password should have 12 to 16 characters, be a combination of letters, uppercase, lowercase, numbers, and characters, be unique to each account, not have any personal information, birthdays, addresses, and names of children or pets, not have any consecutive numbers or letters, so no A, B, C, D, E, F, or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and not be the word password or have any repeat letters or numbers. To do this, I know it's daunting to have a different password for every account because we have so many accounts in this day and age because of technology. But password managers securely store your passwords, which is great. And it only requires biometrics or a master password for login. It stores usernames as well as passwords. And a good affordable example is RoboForm. I think it's like $2 a month and it stores like an infinite amount of information for you as far as passwords and usernames go. So also keep in mind that you should only change passwords if they are compromised or when it's necessary. It's kind of a myth that you have to change it like every 6 months. You should only change it if it's compromised because then you're changing your password too often, and that can cause a lot of confusion and it's not maintainable to do that all the time. The next step is using multi-factor authentication tools, or MFA. This is beneficial to use because it adds an extra layer of security to your accounts by asking to verify your identity. It prevents your personal information from being compromised if there's a data breach, and it alerts you to suspicious login attempts. So different types of MFA include time-based one-time passwords. These are 6-digit codes that are only valid for 1 minute. These are the safest because you need an authenticator app to actually get those TOTPs. So you would click on your authenticator app and it would have like the 6-digit code and it has a timer. So you would have to put that code into the app you're going to use, and it only lasts a minute until it refreshes and gives a new code. Your next type is biometrics. This uses your unique physical characteristics to verify your account, and that's through facial recognition or fingerprints. You have security keys, and this is a physical token that can be inserted or tapped on your device to verify your identity. You have security questions, questions you answer on a website or application to gain access to your account. But remember to choose questions that people will not know the answer to. So if your perpetrator is really close to you, you would want to make sure that you choose questions that are kind of like only you would know. We also have email-based authentication and SMS-based authentication. These are codes sent to your email or by text message to log into your account. These are the weakest form of MFA because if someone does have access to your phone, or they're using your phone, they can get that code and then just log into your account. So it's not suggested to use those, especially with Stalkerware. You would want to use the TOTPs or biometrics for those. The next is looking out for unknown links and senders. You want to be cautious when an email has an attachment or a link attached to it. What you want to do, you want to look out for misspelled companies or email addresses. So to do that, you can hover over the email address and links to see if they're correct before interacting. Like if you move over it like for a website, it would give that actual website's name. If it's a whole bunch of characters or a link that doesn't coincide with that address that you're looking at, don't click on it. It's pretty much bad. The only download files from trusted sources. Like again, you want to hover over the links and websites before clicking on them because you can be redirected to fake websites where your information can be compromised. You want to make sure the website's secure before typing in any of your personal information. And when you go to a website, you can click on that, and up in that left-hand corner where the web address is, you'll see a lock. If that lock is unlocked or it's not there, it would be suggested not to type in any personal information into those sites. You want to make sure to keep your phone, antivirus, and anti-malware programs and other devices up to date, as well as updating backups to reduce the chance of losing information if your device is affected. Next, you want to make sure you update your smartphone and install security patches. So updating your smartphone enhances security, improves performance by patching security flaws. This addresses weaknesses that can be exploited to gain unauthorized access to your personal information or phone. It reduces malware risks. Updates come with updated security features and protections that reduce the odds that your device will be infected. They have improved encryption, and that will better protect your personal financial information and your communication methods. There's secured authentication. This has improved biometric technologies and enhances security methods. It fixes bugs. So installing updates will fix issues with crashing, lagging, or other operational issues, and better application usage. So updates will address applications that cause issues to the device, such as battery drain or overheating. Next, these are some steps to keep yourself safe from GPS location tracking, sorry, and geofencing. So since GPS tracking and geofencing is like the #1 issue with Stalkerware, I created these steps just to make sure that people are on guard with them. So the first step is you want to trust your gut. If you see your ex or someone that you feel is stalking you at multiple locations throughout the day or on a weekly basis, that's more than just a coincidence. Like, the second step is you want to ask yourself questions, like look for patterns. Does the perpetrator know your location all the time or only when you leave specific locations? Does the tracking occur after visitation times? Are you sharing your location or checking in on Facebook or other social media platforms? And does the perpetrator have contact with your family? Those are all important questions that are like yes or no's that can help you kind of sort out where this is coming from and how it's occurring. The third step is you want to educate yourself, learn how specific technologies work and how to keep yourself safe when you implement safeguards. Four, you want to document the incidents, keep a journal that logs the days and times you've seen the perpetrator. And if you have screenshots, keep them safe in a secure folder. Five, you want to strategize your safety. This can be different depending on the severity of the situation. This may involve the creation of a tech safety plan with an advocate, making a police report, or a combination of preventatives. And six is your device check. This is where you look for suspicious files, duplicate icons, and applications that you did not install. If you find any, delete or uninstall them. And that's all the information that I have on Stalkerware. I hope you guys enjoyed it and I hope it made sense. So thank you.
If there are any questions, we'll kind of pause to give people a chance to put those in the chat. Otherwise, thank you so much, Aubrey, for sharing all that, like I said, important information. It's something that it's hard to stay on top of, know kind of what's out there. So these kinds of presentations where it gets that information out are so important, especially for survivors.
Oh, you're welcome. And that's the sad part is like I realized too, like as soon as this year's over, all of that information is gonna have to be updated because it it changes all the time and
Yeah, it seems like you blink your eye and there's a new program out there to be aware of or a new technology that's available to that people are using for harm, not for the good.
exactly. It's kind of like I know with just Stalkerware alone, it was like there's 195 different apps and like I only focused on five. So it's like to know that I only hit the iceberg, like the tip of the iceberg with these things is kind of like unsettling, but yet it's at least shifting it into an area that definitely needs to be explored more.
So we have Paula who just asked if the recording will be available somewhere. I've responded just saying, yep, we are going to be putting it on our YouTube page shortly after today's presentation to make sure it's available to rewatch or you can share out as well. Are there any other questions? Give it a second. I actually have a quick question myself because we've done this with our staff here at Turning Point, but as you rehear it and kind of rethink things, the questions tend to pop up. I know there's always been a saying with Apple phones that Apple has the technology, like if you click on those links that maybe come across that your phone is still protected. And it's all built into the system where those different programs that you can get for protection really aren't necessary. Is that a true thing?
That's so difficult because like if they're on there, sure. But also if someone's controlling your phone from a remote location, they can turn those off. And that's where it said in the presentation where it's like these perpetrators are authenticated and authorized. So if they just are doing something on the phone and they know that that prompt is going to come up, they can control both. Like if they screen share the
Then they
victims.
could click
Yep.
the link
Yep. They just
remotely.
go, no, it's okay. Don't worry about it. And then they're in. And then, it kind of makes a whirlwind of problems.
Gotcha. All right, it looks like there's no other questions. If people wanted to follow up with anything, is there a way people can follow up with you, or should we have them go through us for questions and we can reach out? What would work best for you?
I can leave my contact information in the chat if necessary before I
Yeah, that would
exit
be,
out.
yeah, that would be great. So Aubrey will put her contact information if there's specific questions that maybe we didn't get to or you didn't feel comfortable asking with the group. You can either reach out to the training at turningpointlv.org email, or reach out to Aubrey as well directly.
Okay. There we go.
Perfect. All right. If there's nothing else, we will end today's session. I want to say thank you again to Aubrey for coming and sharing this important information. And thank you to all of you who participated today as well.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good day, Aubrey.
Oh, you too. Bye.
Bye.